Alright, grade 8s, this is your test prep. I'm just going to run over the things that are going to be on your test on Tuesday. The first thing you're going to have to do is walk me through the logic behind adding and subtracting integers. It is that story about the hot and cold cubes in that magical land. And I know it's juvenile, but like I said before, when you do it in your head before each question, it takes no time at all. I know it might take a little bit more time to explain it or write it down when I ask for it, but it is something that will help you. So that's going to be the first thing that's going to be on your test. I'll give you a question like 3 plus negative 6, and I'll ask you to walk me through the logic in doing it. The second will be just simple subtraction and addition of integers, as well as multiplication and division of integers. Not too much to say about that. They're very, very quick. There'll be 3 or 4 of each of those. There will be no calculators allowed. You're welcome to have a number line and your 12 times 12 table sheet out. But besides that, I'll make them numbers that you can deal with, because I want to make sure you understand the thing about the signs. I don't want you plugging everything into a calculator. The next part of the test is going to be order of operations with integers. We spent a few days on doing them. You got done them quite quick, and you were doing them with a lot of confidence, so I don't expect anything there. This part of the test here involves multiplication division with base 10 and similar numbers. So when we're dividing by 1,000 or multiplying by 100 or those sort of things, again, just what we've been working on. And our last will be word problems that involve any of these concepts here. And they'll be very similar to the word problems you've seen in your homework. So my suggestion when I start doing stuff like this is look at it, press pause, and then go and see if you're right after I finish the question. So I'll give you a quick second, press pause, and then check your work. So here we go, 3 plus negative 6, you're adding cold, it's getting colder, so you go down the number line, you're going to be at negative 3. If you have negative 5 and you add more cold to it, it's going to be negative 8, because the only way we can go is left down the number line there. In our third example, we are taking away cold cubes. And if we take away cold from our mixture, it must be getting hotter. That moves us 3 to the right down the number line, and we're at 11. This last question says negative 4 minus 10. We look at that as taking away hot cubes. If we take away hot, our mixture must be getting colder. We start at negative 4 and we get 10 colder. That's to the left, and we're at negative 14. Okay, here's some multiplication division of integers. Now remember when we got to the multiplication and division, there is a hard fast rule, and that hard fast rule that you have to know for the test is if the signs that you're dealing with in your division or multiplication are the same, you will always get a positive answer. So a positive times a positive will give you a positive answer, or a negative times a negative will always give you a positive answer. Similarly, if you have different signs, so a positive times a negative, you will have a negative answer, and vice versa. So when we made a rule for this, we just said if the two signs are the same, going to be positive. If the two signs are negative, are opposite, then they're going to be a negative answer. So when we look at these questions, again, take a quick look, hit pause, check them out. Go ahead and hit pause. And after I answered them, I realized that I had made them all into negative answers, but we still get the idea. This is a positive divided by a negative. It's going to be negative 4, because 20 goes into 84 times, and it's a positive divided by a negative. That's two different expressions. It's going to give you a negative answer. On the second one, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, times 2 is negative 18. So that's your second one. On the third one, it's a negative divided by a positive number. It's going to give you a negative answer, and 9 goes into 45 5 times. And lastly, negative 3 to the exponent 3 is really negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9, which gives you hope for a positive answer, but then we multiply it by negative 3, and we come out to negative 27. All right, let's take a look at BEDMAS. We looked at this with BEDMAS, brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction, and we made one little addition to it, and we put arrows between the addition and subtraction. We put arrows between the division and multiplication. We did this because we know that the division and multiplication happen in the order that they appear in the question. And same with the addition and subtraction, they happen in the order they appear in the question. We cannot, however, choose between addition and multiplication or something similar. It's always division and multiplication in the order they appear, and then addition and subtraction in the order they appear. So if we look to the next page, here's a few examples. I just have to fill in a few division signs here. And maybe what I'll do, because I don't have any exponents up there, I better put a few exponents. Maybe I'll put one here like this. And that'll be good enough to get us started. So what I want you to do is press pause and then try to answer them out, and then get the video going again and see how, if you were close and you had the same answers. Alright guys and gals, here's our answer. So in our first question we had to do the exponent first. We write down everything in the same order that it appeared. So there's your first line, 2 plus 6 times 4 plus 16. Of course we're going to do the multiplication first, which leaves us 2 plus 24 plus 16. And then we add that all in one step and we get 42. Question number 2, we have addition, multiplication, and an exponent. Well, we're going to do, sorry, but this is inside the brackets. So we're going to do the stuff that's inside the brackets, that's 8. In our next line, we're going to deal with our exponent. So that's the 9 part here. Again, you're just copying the rest down in the order that it appears. What we end up is 3 minus 9, that's negative 6, because it's 3. Take away 9, it must be getting colder and moving to the left on our number line. In question number 3 here, we have a choice between subtraction, multiplication, division, and addition. Well, that multiplication happens first, so it leads us to this line here where 3 times 4 is 12, and everything else is copied down just like it is. Our next step is subtraction, division, or addition, so we're going to do this part, do the division part. So we copied the 5 down, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and that copies down to that. We end up with negative 1 plus 6, which gives us a total of 5. And in our last question, what we have is we have to do this brackets first. 2 plus 3 times 5 gives us 17. Puts that line here. We're going to divide 17 by 2, which gives us 8.5. And that might have made you a little bit nervous, but in grade 8 we can have decimals and not be nervous about it. And when you add that all the way across, you get 15.5. So now we're looking at multiplying and dividing with base 10 numbers and similar numbers without using a calculator. And what we do there is our first step is to identify where our decimal is. Sorry, what you should be doing first is hitting pause and trying out these 3 questions. So go ahead and hit pause, do the questions, then check to see if you're right. Alright, if you've hit pause, we know that our decimal is right there. We know when we multiply by 3 digits, and we're going to move our place value over 3 spots. So that's 1, 2, 3. Each of those spots has to be filled with a 0. And 82 times 1,000 is 82,000. This one is similar, where 9.5 times 10 to the 2. And what you really have to know is what 10 to the power of 2 is. 10 to the power of 2 is really 10 times 10. That'll make that number 100. Another good way of looking at it is if you have 10 to the power of anything, the number of the exponent is the number of zeros that you will see there. So really, this is 9.5 times 100. Again, you identify that we're multiplying, so we're going to be moving that decimal 2 places to the right. If we move that decimal here to the right 2 places, it creates a hole. We put a 0 right there, and our answer is 950. Our last one is division. Of this sort is division. Now, when we multiply by base 10 numbers, we move the decimal place to the right. Here we're dividing, so we're heading to the left. You identify that there are 3 decimal places to move, and you identify that at the moment the decimal is to the right of the 5. So if I'm going to move that decimal place, I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. My new answer will be decimal 1.75. And we did those when we were converting newtons or grams and kilograms into newtons for our pressure questions already. So this part was review. We did this in the first week of school. The very last thing we have to do is the new part, the mental math, where we found out, quite by surprise, that we can multiply some numbers that appear to be, and divide some numbers that appear to be quite large by other large numbers And actually it's not that hard. So I'll put a few here up on the board. And let's try 25 times, let's go 60,000. And we can also divide, so we could do something like 90 divided by, well, let's go 900. And lastly, we'll do one more. Gotta put my pen down so I can do it. I'll even change colors because I dropped my pen. Let's go 150. And I'm going to divide that by 75,000. It's going to be a huge decimal number. But at the beginning of this week, you would have probably thought there's no way I can do 12 times 8,000. I barely know my 12 times tables. I surely don't know my 12 or my 8,000 times tables. But like when we multiply by base numbers, this is a similar number. There are a lot of zeros, and that's a similarity. So in order to do this, what you do is you take these numbers right here, the 12 and the 8. You ignore the zeros from now. You should know that 12 times 8 is 96 because we have been practicing our multiplication tables. And all you do is say, okay, I'm at 96, but I have 3 zeros to deal with. I'm multiplying by 1,000 more times. So all you do is you drop those 3 zeros right there, and 12 times 8,000 is 96,000. To look at that again, we look at our second one here, and we have 25 times 6, 60,000. We're only going to deal for the moment with 6 and 25. We're going to leave these zeros for a second. Hopefully you know that 6 times 25 is 150. And if you don't, just think of it as 6 quarters. If you have 6 quarters, you have 150 cents. Now, we're not done because we have to add these 3 zeros down, and there's 4 of them. And what you get is 1,500,000. So you probably didn't know you could do a number that big in your head. Similar is division. If you have these zeros, we are good to go. We are going to take this whole number here, though I know it's kind of different because it's 9D, but we're going to find out how many times 9 goes into 9D. 9 goes into 90 10 times. And then we are dividing, so we have to move 2 places, not to the right this time because we're dividing, but 2 to the left. You identify where your decimal is in your original answer, and that's 10, and I'm going to have to move this 2 places to the left. My new answer would be decimal 1. And lastly, you're going to try this one more time. You're going to take this 175 and this 150. And you're going to say, how many times will 75 go into 150? Hopefully you know it happens twice. We're not done. I better actually erase this here because my decimal at the moment is right there to the right of the 2, but I have 3 zeros to deal with. I'm dividing. My decimal is going to go to the left, 3 spaces. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Fill those in with zeros, and our new answer is decimal 002. Basically, men and women, that is the math that you did. We'll do a few word problems similar to the ones we did in class, but I'm sure we're all going to do very, very well on this test. Good luck studying.